This is on the Parshas Toldos. So we're going to focus on a few questions from the Sfas Emes. The first question the Sfas Emes asks is, how could it be that Yitzchak, who was a prophet, one of the greatest people of all time, and lived obviously in the same house as both of his sons, did not know which son was the righteous son and which son was the wicked son? It seems perplexing. And the second question that he asks is, why did Hashem arrange it that the blessings would be conferred onto Yaakov through subterfuge and cheating and harama? Why didn't it just be that Yitzhak would realize who was the good child and who was the bad child and just be like, hey, you're the good child, you get the blessing. That's it. So the Sfas Emes first rejects the first premise of the first question. He says that actually Yitzchak did know who was the good child and who was the bad child. And Yitzchak represents Midas Hadin, meaning that he represents judgment, as Abraham represents chesed, kindness, and Yaakov represents emes, truth. The quality that our rabbis associate Yitzchak with is emes. And so he was going to give a blessing to, did I say emes? Din, judgment. So he was going to give a blessing to both of them. He was going to give a blessing specifically tailored to the unique qualities of Esav. And he was going to say, Esav, this is your blessing. It's tailored to your qualities and your lifestyle, and it's tailored to your level, because that's how you're supposed to judge a person. You don't judge a child and an adult the same way, meaning by saying, oh, well, the punishment for this crime is being put to death, and so I'm going to be a strict judge and give it to whoever commits this murder or whatever, right? No, that's not how judgment works. Judgment works according to the person that you're judging. The punishment for an 8-year-old who shoplifts should be much different than the punishment that an 80-year-old gets if he shoplifts. So Yitzhak was going to give Esav a blessing and Yaakov a blessing. They were not going to be the same blessing, and they were going to be held to different standards. So now, according to this, all we did is just replace one question with another. We're no longer questioning about, did Yitzhak know, did he not know? But now we have another question. Why would Rivka insist on Yaakov taking Esav's blessing? So, it doesn't even make sense, because Esav's blessing would be kind of like a downgrade for Yaakov. It's not according to his level. It's like the things that, since Esav wasn't a righteous person, the things that his father would be blessing him with and holding him accountable to would be too low of a level for Yaakov. So why would Rivka insist that you have to go take this blessing? And in fact, Esav himself is perplexed with his mother. He says, hey, Mom, I'm a smooth-skinned guy and he's a hairy guy. To which the Sfas Emes says that in Al-Pi Drush, on a Kabbalistic level, he says, refers to, I'm a smooth man, meaning that I don't have sins and that I'm clean and that I'm pure. And he's a hairy, bumpy guy. He does. Meaning, why should I go take his blessing? It doesn't even make sense, he's saying to his mother. So what's going on over here? The Sfas Emes says here, we see how great and how much foresight our imahos, our great mothers and ancestors were. That Rivka said to her son Yaakov, I know you don't need this blessing. Because Yaakov Avinu, he was capable of living in a world of pure din, of pure judgment. Yaakov was on such a high level, he wasn't afraid. Well, he didn't have to worry, per se, about having to do certain things because he was such a great person. However, Rivka says, this blessing is not for you, and I know it's not for you, but it's for your descendants. Meaning that this blessing, you have to think about it, it's not just coming for your personal life. This blessing is for your progeny, for your descendants, for the people who come out from you. And the problem is that, Yaakov, you're on a very high level. You never sin. You're one of the greatest people of all time. But who's going to say that your descendants will be able to live up to the level of the blessing that your father's giving you? So you need to go and disguise yourself as your brother and take his blessing, which is on a lower level. See, his blessing for him is din, it's judgment. But his blessing for you is the equivalent of rachamim, chesed, kindness, and mercy. So you need to go take this blessing you don't need, and you don't even have to use it, and store it, so to speak. The Zohar usually uses the actual lashon, the actual language of you have to store this blessing. You're not going to use it. You don't need it. But you're storing it for your descendants. So now we understand why Yaakov had to disguise himself as Esav, because his father would have said, I'm not giving you this blessing. You don't deserve this blessing. You need a blessing that holds you to a higher level. That if you sin, if you do mitzvahs, all is good. And if you sin, you should die. You should die. That's the blessing you need because you're on a high level. Hashem, for example, takes Moshe Rabbeinu away from this world for striking a rock instead of speaking to it. Okay? I do things 50 times worse on a regular day. I do the equivalent of that maybe 10 times a day. Okay? So the reason why a story like that is in the Torah is to show you how great of a person Moshe was, that he's held accountable for such a small sin, because that's the level that he's on. Yaakov was like on a similar level. So yes, he did not need the blessing that Esav was getting, but we would. So Hashem wanted him to store it, and he would never have been able to get it to store if he would have went in the room as Esav. As himself, as Yitzchak, as Yaakov, sorry. Now we can understand the verses very well, because Esav doesn't say he stole the blessing. That's not the exact wording that he uses. He says he stole my blessing, meaning that the blessing was uniquely tailored to me. He didn't steal the blessing that he was going to give as if it was only one blessing. No, he stole my blessing because really he was going to give two blessings, and this blessing was uniquely tailored to me, and he took it. So now here's the thing. Now you can understand why Esav wants to kill Yaakov, because it's one thing if he would have stolen the one and only blessing, but he stole the blessing that was tailored for me. He didn't even need it. Like it almost comes off as he's doing it to spite me. He doesn't even need it, and he's taking it and throwing it away, not even using it. So the only reason somebody would do that is to spite somebody, right? Now we can understand why Esav is so upset. This was uniquely tailored to me. And now we're in a time period where people talk about giving thanks. So what is our avoda? Our avoda, when we read these parshos, because all these parshos in Sefer Parshas are about our avos, about our forefathers. What we need to do is really appreciate what they did for us. Think about what Rivki Imenu did for you in this week's parsha. She risked her entire life. She risked her son's life to get this blessing, and it was of no value to them themselves. It was value to you. They did it for you, only you. They get nothing out of this. That is something to be thankful for. So what you need to do when you read these parshas, including this week's parsha and next week's parsha, is look for the things that the avos did, that they did for you, that benefit you directly, that they got not necessarily any benefit from, and in fact, perhaps even suffered because of the way they went out and did this for you. So have a good Shabbos, and let us be cognizant of all that our avos have done for us. And of course, be thankful for it as well.